David was just an ordinary father until the dreadful accident led him to a strange journey between two worlds. Fatal accident. David Miller woke up at 5 a.m. The familiar alarm rang, monotonous and dry, but to him, it never caused discomfort. The 42-year-old man had been used to waking up early for nearly 20 years, ever since the first day he officially took the job of driving a bus for the city of New York. In the small apartment in Brooklyn, the yellow light from the kitchen blended with the aroma of coffee, dripping from the old machine. Sarah, his wife, had woken up earlier. She wore a light gray robe, her brown hair neatly tied up, her face still carrying traces of sleepiness. "You're up? I made you some coffee." Sarah smiled softly, her voice gentle, though her eyes still carried a constant worry. David sat down at the table, the chair creaking. He sipped the hot coffee, the bitter taste, yet warming sensation spreading down his throat, awakening his whole body. Outside, the sound of occasional car horns echoed from the misty street. "Be careful. It's cold, and the road is slippery," Sarah reminded him, placing the lunchbox into the black bag David carried every day. David nodded, looking at his wife with affection. "I know. You and Lily sleep a little more. I'll be back before dinner." Right then, Lily, their 8-year-old daughter, toddled out of her room. She wore pajamas printed with a cat, her eyes still heavy with sleep. "Dad, are you going to work?" her sleepy voice murmured, her hand rubbing her eyes. David bent down, opening his arms to hold his little girl. He kissed her soft hair, still fragrant with children's shampoo. "Yes, Dad's going. Be good and listen to Mom. This afternoon when I'm back, we'll have dinner together." Lily nodded, hugging her father's neck tightly. "I want to draw you a picture. Tonight, you'll see it, okay?" David chuckled, the gentle smile many bus passengers often saw. "I'll be waiting." He put on his thick coat, his wool hat, and stepped out of the warm apartment. The icy winter wind of New York immediately hit his face, making him shiver. His breath turned into thin smoke, dissolving into the air. The bus depot at the starting point was silent in the dim light. The green bus, number 47, lay still like a giant beast asleep. David stepped inside, the smell of engine oil, plastic, and faint smoke filling the familiar space. He started the bus. The engine roared, shaking the metal frame. That feeling always reassured him. The bus was still good, still strong enough to carry dozens of people safely through the crowded, bustling streets of this city. The trip began like every other day. Passengers boarded. A middle-aged woman carrying a market bag, a young man with headphones, several workers in thick coats, their boots covered with snow. Each carried their own world, with worries, haste, and even hidden dreams. David always paid attention to the smallest details. When an old man boarded, he slowed down so he wouldn't stumble. When a young woman held a pile of documents, he stopped precisely on the line so she wouldn't have to rush. He knew his job wasn't glamorous, but deep down, David believed each small gesture could make someone's day more bearable. Around 8 a.m., the bus left the residential area and entered the highway. The sky was gray, heavy clouds looming as if ready to release snow. Inside, the bus was slightly warm, the windows foggy from breath. Passengers were silent, only the steady hum of the engine and the wind whistling outside. David glanced in the rearview mirror, spotting a young mother comforting her crying child. The boy, about 3 years old, had red, swollen eyes, his face streaked with tears. That image reminded him of Lily, who often cried when Sarah was busy. He smiled, about to say something, when suddenly, a sharp screech pierced the air. A truck in the next lane lost control, its body swaying, sliding across the icy road. That moment seemed to slow down. David saw clearly the panicked eyes of the truck driver, saw sparks flying as the wheels scraped against the asphalt. "Oh my God!" a passenger screamed. David gripped the steering wheel tightly, his whole body tensing. He turned the wheel swiftly to avoid a head-on collision. The sound of tires skidding on the road screeched terrifyingly. The bus shook violently. Passengers screamed, many tumbling from their seats. A suitcase flew up, slamming against the window. A child's wailing pierced the chaos. David used all his strength to regain control, but the road was too slippery. The bus swayed, leaning to one side. He heard the screech of metal, a horrifying sound, tearing through the air. "Hold on tight!" he shouted, his voice hoarse. In that moment, David could only think of one thing: protect everyone. I'm the driver. I must keep this bus steady. But it was too late. The bus toppled, sliding across the road. Glass shattered, shards flying everywhere. Screams mixed with the crashing metal, a nightmare of chaos. David's body was thrown forward, the seatbelt tightening against his chest, suffocating him. His head slammed into the dashboard, his vision darkening. A stabbing pain pierced his chest, as if thousands of blades struck at once. The smell of smoke, gasoline, and blood choked his nose. His ears rang, hearing only the faint, weak pounding of his own heart. He collapsed, his hands still gripping the steering wheel, as his consciousness slipped away like a severed thread. Everything went black. The out-of-body moment. The darkness at first covered David like a thick, icy blanket. He thought he was dead. No more pain, no more noise, only an endless stretch of silence. But then, in that dense blackness, a faint glow slowly appeared, small like a spark in the winter night. David opened his eyes. At least, he thought he had opened them, though he wasn't sure if he still had eyelids. Before him, the world slowly brightened. He saw himself, floating. No weight held him down, his body light as a leaf in midair. Panic surged as David looked around, then suddenly realized what lay below. The bus, its body tilted to one side, twisted and shattered. The windows were broken, black smoke billowed thickly, the acrid smell of gasoline spread through the air. On the road, smeared with blood and glass shards, passengers screamed, struggling to crawl out. An alarm from a nearby vehicle blared, shrill and unrelenting. David's eyes widened. He saw a middle-aged man lying motionless in the front seat. Gray hair, a dark blue driver's uniform stained with blood. Hands still gripping the steering wheel, eyes closed. His heart seemed to stop. That man was himself. "No, no way!" David cried out, but no sound escaped. Only a hollow echo reverberated in the void. He rushed down, trying to touch his body. His hand passed through the steering wheel, through the blood-soaked chest. Trembling, he staggered back, panic flooding him. The air around carried a strange scent, thick with gasoline fumes, faintly metallic like rusted iron, like blood. Sounds echoed oddly, as if filtered through water, distant yet distinct. He could hear the cries of that child, the woman calling for her son, and someone groaning for help. David looked around. People fought for their lives, while he stood here, invisible, powerless. A cold gust swept through him, making him shiver, though his body no longer felt the same. A shadow flashed past, a young man, badly injured, trying to pry open the glass. Instinctively, David reached out to help, but his hand went through the metal bar. The man didn't notice he was there. "Oh God!" The desperate cry rang inside his head. In that moment, David realized he had separated from his body. He was outside himself. Suddenly, he felt himself rising higher, not by his will, but as if pulled by an invisible force. From above, the crash scene became clearer. The highway was jammed, vehicles stopped, many people rushing to help. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Flashing red and blue lights reflected off the cold, wet pavement. David saw a man in a long coat run to the bus, shouting, "Anyone in there? Help!" He saw the door being pried open, several passengers let out, blood soaking their clothes. The sight tore at his heart. But what struck him most was the little boy, face streaked with tears, being carried out of the bus. The boy screamed, "Mom! Mom!" in panic. David wanted to weep, he thought. What if it were Lily in there? What if his daughter had to witness her father powerless like this? A chilling hand seemed to touch his heart. Not a real hand, but a strange sensation. Someone, or something, was near. He turned. The space around him suddenly brightened. A pale white light, gentle yet radiant, appeared in the distance. It didn't blind, instead it brought an uncanny peace. David froze. Two opposing emotions surged within him, overwhelming fear, an irresistible allure. He felt as if the light was calling him, whispering something voiceless, yet clearer than any words. He reached out. His transparent fingers trembled, moving toward the glow. But in that very moment, a frantic cry rose from the ground below. "We've got a critical." Still breathing weakly. "Hurry, bring the stretcher." David looked down. Medics were pulling him, his body, out of the driver's seat. A young nurse checked his pulse, shouting, "Weak heartbeat!" "Quick, oxygen. Prepare the defibrillator." David stood frozen. He saw every motion clearly, each drop of blood falling onto the pavement. They were fighting for his life. And he stood here, on the fragile border, unsure where he belonged. He looked again toward the light. It still waited, gentle, forgiving. In that moment, David felt as if he heard a familiar voice, whispering from within the light, "Don't be afraid. Everything will be all right." The voice reminded him of his mother, who had passed away years ago. The breath, the tone, all so familiar that he wanted to burst into tears. But below, he still saw the heartbreaking sight. People struggling to keep him alive. Sarah, Lily. The images of his wife and daughter rushed into his mind, vivid as if they stood before him. David reeled, torn apart. One side, the eternal peace, calling him. The other, the unfinished love left in this world. He wanted to scream, "What should I do?" But only the void replied. Just then, another light burst forth. Not the gentle one, but a harsh, blinding white glare, accompanied by a pounding thud in his ears. "Clear!" a medic's voice shouted. His body below jerked violently, his heart shocked by electricity. The entire scene seemed to shake, and his invisible self trembled with it. One beat, then two. The heart still hadn't restarted. David screamed in despair, but no one heard. He suddenly realized he was standing at the very final threshold. Reunion with the departed. The ivory-white light spread wide, swallowing the remaining darkness. David felt himself drifting, light as a bird. No more weight, no more pain. The chaotic sounds of reality, ambulance sirens, people screaming, the pounding heartbeat, faded away. In their place was silence, only a faint humming like a distant melody, gentle, lulling his soul into a peace he had never known. David walked, or rather, floated, along a path covered in mist. Silver-white fog curled around him, cool and damp like morning dew in a forest. He reached out. The glistening droplets slipped through his fingers, vanishing at the slightest touch. The air was fragrant, with hints of flowers, grass, and the earthy scent after rain. He looked up. Far ahead, at the end of the misty path, a radiant light shone. It was not blinding, but gentle like a mother's embrace. It seemed to pull him in, making David long to approach, yet afraid he might never return. As he drew closer, the mist gradually cleared, revealing a sight that stunned him. Before him lay a wide river, its surface still as glass, shimmering like silver. Reflected upon it was a sky of radiant gold, orange and purple, as though sunset and sunrise met at once. There was no sun, only light spread everywhere. A soft breeze carried a strange sweetness, not quite flowers, not quite fruit, not quite spice, yet it eased his heart, melting away all pain and fear. David stood frozen. He noticed figures on the far shore. They were faint but familiar, silhouettes like souls. Some walked slowly, others sat waiting. And there, among the light, he saw a face. "Dad," David whispered, his eyes blurred with tears. A tall man, hair silvered, eyes warm, stepped out of the glow. That face was unmistakable. Thomas Miller, David's father, who had passed away nearly 15 years earlier from heart disease. David trembled all over, his heart, if he still had one, exploding with emotion. He rushed forward. His trembling hands touched his father's hand. Unlike before, when his form was intangible, this time he truly felt warmth, solidity. Dad, is it really you?" David sobbed. The man smiled, that gentle smile David remembered from childhood, when his father walked him across fields, when he patted his head after every failure. It's me, son, Thomas said, his voice deep and warm, like echoing from the earth itself. David broke down, tears pouring uncontrollably. He clung to his father, like a lost child finding home. Years of absence, words unsaid, all rushed into this moment. Dad, I missed you so much. I wished 1,000 times I could see you again. And now, here I am. I'm dead, aren't I? David choked. Thomas gently nodded, but his eyes overflowed with love. You're not dead yet, David. Not your time, but you've come very close to this place. David looked around, the river of light, the faint figures, the overwhelming peace. He gasped, "It's beautiful. Dad, I've never seen anything like this. I feel so light, no pain, no worry. I just want to stay here, forever." His father shook his head, resting a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "David, listen to me. This isn't where you can remain, not yet. You still have a path to walk in that world. You still have Sarah and Lily." At his daughter's name, David faltered. Little Lily's face, sparkling eyes, bright laughter echoed in his mind. He trembled. "I don't know if I'll ever see her again. I'm afraid I won't make it back." Thomas leaned down, gazing deep into his son's eyes. "Lily needs you. She needs her father to teach her to ride a bike, to listen to her school stories, to read her bedtime tales. Sarah needs you too. You cannot leave them. Remember, love is the bond that holds you to the world." Tears streamed down David's face. He shook his head, sobbing. "But, Dad, I'm so tired. I've been in pain, so afraid. I just want peace to stay with you." Thomas smiled gently, a tear glistening in his eye. "One day you'll return here, David, but not today. You still have work to do. I believe you're strong enough to go back." David fell to his knees, tears blurring everything. He felt torn apart. On one side, endless peace. On the other, duty, unfinished love. He whispered through trembling lips, I'm afraid that if I go back, I'll suffer again." His father held his hand, passing on tender warmth. "The pain will pass, but love remains. You won't regret it. Go, David. Return to your family. That's where you belong." The light around him suddenly quivered. The shimmering river began to fade. In the distance, he heard again the noise of reality, medical machines, urgent shouts. His father's image dissolved into the glow. "Dad, don't go." "I still have so much to tell you," David cried, reaching out. Thomas smiled one last time. "My son, I love you. Live for those you love." Then he vanished, leaving David collapsed in the light, his heart breaking with sorrow and love. Return. The gentle humming faded, replaced by urgent, rapid sounds. The machines beeped in broken rhythms. David was still kneeling by the river of light, his heart hollow as the image of his father vanished. He wanted to chase after him, to step across that river and continue on, but a powerful force was pulling him back. "No, I don't want to go back," he screamed in despair, his voice echoing in the void. But that pull grew stronger, wrapping tightly around him. In an instant, the radiant light vanished, replaced by a violent dizziness. David felt as though he had been thrown from a great height into a deep abyss. He shot through a dark tunnel, wind howling past his ears, a buzzing sound filling his head. The sharp, stinging smell of antiseptic suddenly flooded his nose. A crushing weight pressed on his chest, like a hammer slamming down. Boom! His body jolted violently. A stabbing pain shot through him, so fierce he thought his bones had shattered. He gasped, sucking in his first breath like a drowning man dragged ashore. Cold air and the metallic tang of oxygen filled his lungs, making him cough violently. Voices rang out nearby. "He's got a heartbeat again. Keep it steady. Continue monitoring. Prepare for immediate transfer." David opened his eyes in a haze. The ceiling was stark white, surgical lights glaring down, so bright they burned his eyes. Faces of nurses and doctors appeared blurred, dreamlike. A hand touched his forehead, warm, trembling. A woman's voice broke, heavy with tears. "David! Can you hear me? It's me, Sarah." His vision blurred, but the image was unmistakable. The tear-filled blue eyes, the weary, hollow face of Sarah. His hand trembled as he tried to lift it. Sarah clasped it tightly, pressed it to her cheek, and sobbed. You're alive? Oh God, you're alive." David forced his lips to move, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. "Sarah, I saw Dad. He said, 'It's not time yet.'" Sarah's tears fell freely. She nodded over and over. "That's right. Not yet. You still have me. And Lily too." At his daughter's name, David's heart clenched. He looked around, lips trembling. "Where's Lily?" Sarah quickly wiped her tears and turned. A small figure stood at the doorway. Lily, their 8-year-old daughter, eyes swollen red, clutching her worn teddy bear. The moment she saw her father's eyes open, she burst into tears, ran forward, and clutched his hand. "Daddy, don't leave me again. I was so scared." Lily sobbed. David choked up, his other trembling hand brushing his daughter's cheek. Despite the agony in his body, his heart warmed. He stammered, "Daddy's here. Daddy won't leave you. I promise." The room fell silent. Only sobs, the steady rhythm of the heart monitor, and the warm glow of family love remained. The days of recovery. David stayed in the hospital for weeks. His body ached, wounds, covering him. But what weighed more heavily than the pain was the vivid memory of that journey beyond the edge of life. Many nights, he jolted awake, drenched in sweat, the shimmering river of light still burning in his mind. Sarah often sat by his bedside, holding his hand, whispering, "You scared me to death. But maybe God let you stay because we still need each other." Every time he saw Lily asleep in the chair by his bed, clutching her teddy bear, David choked up. He remembered his father's words in the light. "You still have Sarah and Lily." From that moment, he knew he had been given a second chance. The change. When he left the hospital, David was no longer the man he had been. He moved slower, observed more, and cherished every moment. He spent more time with his family, walking Lily to school, reading to her at night, sipping tea with Sarah, talking longer, listening more. When colleagues asked about the accident, David only smiled, his eyes distant. "I saw something words can't describe. All I know is, from now on, I won't waste another day." Sometimes he sat alone, remembering his father. The warmth of that hand on his shoulder, that gentle smile, those final words, all felt as fresh as yesterday. David knew his father was still watching, from somewhere beyond that shining river. One spring afternoon, David went to the park with his family. The breeze was cool, the scent of cherry blossoms drifting by. He held Lily's hand, smiled at Sarah. In that moment, he felt more at peace than ever before. David whispered in his heart, "Thank you, Dad. I'll live well for the ones I love." And the light of that faraway river, though it had receded, remained forever in his memory, a reminder eternal. Life is a gift, and love is the power that binds us to the world between life and death. The moment between life and death changed David's life forever. And you, do you believe love can pull someone back from the edge of nothingness? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow us for more miraculous journeys of life.